What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the March 19, 2022 edition of Talking Smack. Recapping what I thought was an overall solid edition of SmackDown on Friday. Far from a must-see show, but better than it has been recently. The blue brand has been largely abysmal since the draft. I talked about this time and time again in my SmackDown audio reviews every Saturday here on the channel, so if you haven't already checked that out, please do so. But I thought SmackDown this week was solid, and Talking Smack did a nice job of recapping the events from Friday. So we open up the show with Jackie Redmond, Matt Camp, and the special guest analyst for this week, JBL, recapping the ending of the show, which saw Ronda Rousey get brutally attacked at ringside by the SmackDown Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair. They also run down the other biggest headlines from the show, including Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville making their WrestleMania match anything goes, per the request of Sami Zayn himself. They show the challenges, the videos of Sami and Knoxville talking from SmackDown before throwing it backstage to Megan Moran at SmackDown with Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn says right now he feels like he should be out celebrating or at home with his Intercontinental Championship, but instead he's worrying about Johnny Knoxville. And he talks about how Johnny Knoxville has infiltrated his world, and he calls him an unconventional wrestler, calls him an unconventional person, and he's going to enjoy punishing him in an anything-goes match at WrestleMania and ending his career. If he even has a career in professional wrestling. I mean, he calls him an unconventional professional wrestler, but we've only ever really seen him have one official match at the Royal Rumble, so I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, but I guess he means that he's going to end his career before it really has a chance to get going, I assume is what he's talking about. JBL says that the stipulation actually does not favor Sami Zayn and calls him one of the worst, or not one of the worst, but one of the most annoying human beings on the planet, and one of the dumbest, he says. Does praise him as being a terrific wrestler, but he says that he should have kept this a regular match. This is in Johnny Knoxville's wheelhouse. Anything goes. So anyone from the Jackass crew could show up and help Johnny Knoxville, reign supreme or attack Zayn, do some crazy shit. I think the match benefits from the stipulation. I forgot to talk about that in my SmackDown audio review from yesterday, but it is now official. It's an anything-goes match. So JBL says, why would Sami do that? That's exactly what Knoxville wanted. So you're an absolute moron for petitioning for this to be a no disqualification anything-goes match, which should hopefully make it more entertaining. JBL says that Charlotte submitting Rousey, as Charlotte said on SmackDown this week, would indeed be her ticket to immortality. They then recap Kofi Kingston versus Ridge Holland from SmackDown. That's Ridge Holland pick up the victory. Matt Camp says that things are looking better for Big E and offers an update on his status, which is great. Big E's been offering updates on his status and his health for the last week on Twitter. So if you're wondering what's going on with Big E, how he's doing, how he's recovering, he's put up a lot of entertaining upbeat videos. I was going to say surprisingly, but given he is the powerhouse of positivity, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But for someone in his situation, I give him a lot of credit, a lot of respect for being as positive and as upbeat about the whole situation as he has been, which is great. It is weird that WWE hasn't done more to really update people on his condition on social media or on their main shows. They did kind of offer an update on SmackDown this week, which was nice, but I feel like they should be doing more considering Big E is such a big name, no pun intended, and he, it's a pretty serious injury with a broken freaking neck, you know what I mean? So they then recap Sasha Banks and Naomi taking on Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, what I called a great match in my SmackDown review from yesterday, my audio review here on the channel. We hear backstage with Megan Moran, it's the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Queen Zelina and Carmella. Zelina says they've been working hard all year for all these random women to be entering their match and, challenging for the tag team titles. And Zelina's right. I mean, Zelina has had a pretty decent year. She started out as a jobber on the SmackDown brand, but has really risen through the ranks since then as a tag team champion, queen of the ring. Carmella really hasn't done a hell of a whole lot, but they are also a makeshift tag team, so I assume that's the point of their interview here, talking about, how could these women enter our scene when they've only been a team for 3 months? Rhea and Liv are a new team. Sasha and Naomi aren't exactly a new team, but they kind of started teaming again out of nowhere. And Shayna and Natalya are also another random team. Zelina gets kind of frustrated at Carmella for not paying attention, for being too focused on Corey Graves and whatnot, because she was focused too much on Corey on Monday's Raw. He wasn't there on Friday, so they kind of stayed on the same page there. But Carmella does say they're on the same page going into WrestleMania. Seeing is believing. I don't think they are. That likely leads to the split coming out of that show. Matt Camp says that Zelina is right. Didn't think that he would actually say that, but he does say Zelina is right and that Carmella needs to focus. And he also calls Sonya, unsurprisingly, a biased official for adding in Shayna and Natalya to the WWE Women's Tag Team title affair at WrestleMania, despite doing nothing to earn it, essentially. They then recap the Bloodline and Brock Lesnar segment that started the show. Terrific stuff. I've really enjoyed the build of this match at Mania. I think they've done a great job with it since Brock came back at SummerSlam, from the subtle teases, all the stuff with Paul Heyman, the one match they had at Crown Jewel. The champion and champion stuff, the champion versus champion stuff doesn't do that much for me personally. Brock winning the belt for 3 weeks, only to win it back at like fucking Elimination Chamber in the fashion he did, I wasn't a fan of, but the overall story they have been telling with these two, with Roman and Brock, has been great, so I give them a lot of credit for that. They also recap the latest Pat McAfee Austin Theory altercation on SmackDown, where McAfee had to apologize to Austin Theory for what he did last week. McAfee mentions that, I apologize for beating your ass at WrestleMania, blah, blah, blah. So they throw backstage to SmackDown with Austin Theory and Megan Morant. Austin Theory says that he's in McAfee's head. He's getting exactly what he wanted out of Pat McAfee. He also notes that he doesn't think that McAfee fully understands what his future holds come WrestleMania. So that was about all that we got out of Austin Theory backstage at SmackDown here on Talking Smack. JBL doesn't think that McAfee was out of line for what he did to Austin Theory the week before. And he gives McAfee a lot of credit, praises him a lot, and saying that he loves this business, has a lot of respect for a guy that is making $30-something million a year from FanDuel for doing a fucking podcast. He does not need this WWE gig. I'm sure he's making nickels on the dollar compared to what he's doing with the podcasting thing. I'm sure they're not paying him $30 million a year. I mean, I can guarantee you that as a fucking commentator on SmackDown. But he's doing it because he enjoys it and he loves it. So he has a lot of respect to him, a lot of respect for McAfee for that, which is cool. He also adds, which is a great point, and Camp kind of backs this up, that Theory is the one really in the situation with everything to lose. McAfee is not a regular in-ring superstar, or not Theory. McAfee is not a regular in-ring superstar. He's just a commentator. He's had all of 2 matches, which Camp mentions, which is great. No one else has really been playing up the fact that McAfee actually has in-ring experience, and I can understand why. I mean, they're not showing any footage because of the fact that the first match, he lost to Adam Cole, who's no longer in the company. In the War Games match that he was in, I think well over half of the people in that match aren't even in WWE anymore, but his team lost to Undisputed Era. So, actually, the only people that are still in the company that were in that match are actually now on SmackDown. Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne were on the same team, and then Roderick Strong, who's still in NXT. So that was about it, I think. But anyway, that Theory has a lot to lose here, which they're right. He definitely does. And JBL questions what would be next. What would happen if Theory loses come WrestleMania. And Camp mentions McAfee's past 2 matches in NXT. He doesn't mention specifically what they were, aside from the fact that one of them was War Games. But he also mentions that he's been at the Super Bowl. He's an all-pro punter, whatever it is. I forgot what the exact title is. But this isn't a stage too big for him, but it might be for Austin Theory, and it would mean a lot for him to win his first singles match at WrestleMania. I think a lot of people forget Theory's actually already debuted at WrestleMania, has already had his WrestleMania debut. He was involved in that random Raw Tag Team title match at WrestleMania 36. I think on night 2, I don't remember. It was him, I think, and Angel Garza versus the Profits, and they lost. But yeah, so it's interesting. This would be his first singles match on the show, though. Anyway, to close out the show, they talk about Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. JBL can't wait for the match, and he's been around every amazing athlete this company has ever seen, but he calls Brock Lesnar the biggest freak athlete of them all. And he calls it one of WrestleMania's greatest matches, which I'm not sure I would go that far. I've thoroughly enjoyed the build. It does have high stakes with both world championships being on the line and it being called the unification match. I don't know if I would put it over Hogan and Andre or Austin and Rock from WrestleMania 17 or Cena and Rock even. I mean, I don't know if I would go that far considering we've seen this match a million times before. But still, I understand the hype around it, and JBL certainly is excited, as I am. I am looking forward to the match. And Matt Camp also mentions that this past week marked 20 years of Brock Lesnar in WWE, the 20-year anniversary of his WWE debut on Raw back in 2002. And now he's still as dangerous as he's ever been, except now he has 20 years more of a worth of experience. So that's going to really play a big advantage for him come WrestleMania. And that was about it for Talking Smack for March 19, 2022. A good edition this week. I like the Austin Theory interview. That was short, sweet, straight to the point. Zelina Carmella continuing to tease tension. And the Sami Zayn interviews are always very entertaining, so I enjoyed that as well. So good stuff this week from Talking Smack, recapping, again, what I thought was a solid edition of SmackDown from Friday. If you want my full thoughts on that show in written form, it's over on WrestleRant.com, and in audio form right here on the channel from yesterday. So be sure to subscribe to never miss a video here on the channel. A lot of cool content coming here to the channel heading into WrestleMania in 2 weeks. I will indeed be in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. We got that coming up, more interviews that I've already recorded that should be up very soon here on the channel going into WrestleMania, and plenty more, and also live content and live reactions and shit like that. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so, and hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.